I believe I've been dedicating myself to humanitarian causes and to solidarity with many countries of different religions, different ethnic groups. And for example, we do solidarity brigades to Cuba and to Venezuela, and we don't have the religious aspect of it. Both countries, they came from European colonization, so they took a lot of Christianity to their way of life.
In a world facing multiple crises, standing for humanity requires courage, consistency, and conscience. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a good afternoon to all. So, a special and a space where resilience, faith, and global solidarity came together. This is a platform dedicated to meaningful conversations on justice, humanity, and the responsibility we share beyond borders. Inshallah, today's episode is a special one. We are honored to collaborate with Global Sumud Flotilla and Sumud Nusantara in partnership with Cinta Gaza Malaysia, right? And to discuss a cause that continues to challenge the moral compass of the world, which is Palestine, right? Joining us today is Thiago. Our brother is Thiago Ávila, a global activist and one of the participants and leaders of the Global Sumud Flotilla. And together we will explore what Sumud truly means and why Gaza remains central to global conscience, and how solidarity across faith, cultures, and nations can still be a powerful force for justice today. All right. So maybe before we start our conversations today, maybe you can share about your life, about how you became an activist, and maybe specific about your family and so on in Brazil.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum. Terima kasih. I'm very happy to be here in Malaysia.
Obrigado. Thank you.
For me, it's an honor to be here. You've been doing such an amazing work. The Malaysian people in general, they've shown so much solidarity with Palestine, and not only with Palestine, with the just causes of the world, which is an honor to be here. I've always dreamt of coming, and now finally in Malaysia.
Thank you, brother.
So, I believe that in the end, we are all looking to fulfill a purpose in this life. I believe people driven from any religion, any walk of life, they're trying to find a meaning why they are here and what's their contribution to the world. I am 39 years old, about to turn 40 years old, and since I was 18 years old, I was trying to find a meaning for me being here, and I found it in social struggle, in trying to create a society free of exploitation, oppression, and the destruction of nature. So that's where I come from around 22 years now, dedicating to social justice in Brazil, in the indigenous territories, in the countryside communities, and also in the peripheries of the big cities, but also dedicating to Latin America. And very early, I also understood what was going on in Palestine and started dedicating to that as well. And I understood that Palestine was the place where United States imperialism and this horrible project, which is like a twin brother from it, which is Israeli Zionism, had the most horrific plan. So that's where we should also focus a lot of energy to defeat, because after I've been to Palestine, everything changed. I've been to the occupied West Bank, to the territories occupied in 1948, and I've been to the borders of Gaza. I was never allowed in there. And so it changed a lot for me to see that violation in real life. To be honest, I didn't knew it existed in the world, something like that. I thought it was an exaggeration until I saw it myself.
Okay, so you started your work as an activist in the age of 18?
Yes, I was 18 years old. I wish I had started earlier, to be honest.
Okay.
But I came from an average middle-class life in Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. And I didn't come from a political dedicated family, so I started by watching movies about revolutionaries and reading books and totally dedicated to understand the history of the world, the history of especially of the global south. So that's when I understood that Malaysia was also colonized by the Portuguese, like us in Brazil, and then by the British. So that's those things connect us. We have the same history and we have the same destiny because we have the same enemy to defeat.
I had watched your struggles and resilience and fighting for the schools at the Brazil. Can you share with us why that you joined the a humanitarian aid or fighting for the social justice and so on?
You know that Brazil is a magnificent country, the size of a continent. Okay. It has all the people call natural resources, I call common goods of nature, has the biggest tropical forest in the world. It has the biggest river in the world. It has the biggest biodiversity in the world. Has so many beautiful things, and has always been between the 10 biggest economies in the world in the last century.
Okay.
But the problem is that Brazil has always been also between the 10 most unequal countries in the world.
10 most unequal countries.
Most unequal country. In Brasilia, the city where I live, the capital is the most unequal place in Brazil. So when we see inequality like that, you understand that the system is not built for the majority of the people. People work every day harder and harder and harder, and life gets only harder for them. They cannot afford the same conditions as their parents lived before them. The youth, they have so little hope that they'll be able to live and have their own house and to be able to raise their kids if they have kids, and that they'll be able to meet the conditions. So they're afraid of the future, so they are hopeless. And we cannot live in a society like that, because the system, to be honest, it only benefits a small minority of people at the top of this unjust social pyramid that destroys nature and all the living beings on this planet for the benefit of a very few. It crushes everybody else. I said, why do we accept that? Why we live in a situation like this? So Brazil is very easy for us to ask these questions because we see violation all around us all the time. So that's where I started. It was very pedagogical to me to understand that we were in the middle. For example, the last time I was arrested in Brazil was during Bolsonaro government. And we were in the middle of the pandemic and everything was on lockdown, but he was evicting the poorest families and destroyed their homes with bulldozers. And we were thinking, if they're asking people to stay at home, not to get COVID, why are they destroying their homes? And how come they're destroying the small schools that they had? So we had to do something about it. So we brought all of our team and we stayed in front of the homes and on top of the schools. They were very, very violent because in the system it's like this. If you obey, if you dedicate your life to compete against your brother beside you and try to accumulate material goods because that's the way they say, that's the way through happiness and success, nothing will happen to you. Just waste your life energy in this horrific situation. But if you challenge that, the system is very violent. As we see in the United States, as we see in London, in Germany, it's a false idea of democracy and freedom of speech and human rights. So for the global south, that never existed.
Okay, so what do you see in the Palestinian struggle? Is it the same as what do you see in Brazil?
In general, all colonized countries lived a similar situation, that a foreign nation that had an idea of superiority, of supremacy over us, came and either tried to populate our area and ethnic cleanse us and genocide us, or they came just to extract all of our common goods of nature, they called natural resources, and enrich them. Palestine lives a situation similar to what Brazil lived, to what Malaysia lived as well, but in a different time with different weapons and of course in a situation where before it was very wide open. They say they had the right because their kings were chosen by God and because they were the axis of civilization, the model of civilization, and everywhere else they were savages. And now they use different things. Now they say that the Arabic people are violent, that the Islamic religion is of terrorists, and they use different discourses to do the same thing as always, to steal land, to steal the wealth, to enslave people. So the same colonial origin still remains. It connects Brazil, Malaysia, Palestine, and everywhere else.
Okay, I think that is the nice thoughts that you can share with us, but I just want to ask you a question, brother. We know that most of us know that the Palestinian struggle is always affiliated with the Islamics and also with the Islam's religions. But as a non-Muslim, maybe you can share with us what's your perspective, what's your principle to fight for the Palestinian struggle?
I believe I've been dedicating myself to humanitarian causes and to solidarity with many countries of different religions, different ethnic groups. And for example, we do solidarity brigades to Cuba and to Venezuela, and we don't have the religious aspect of it. Both countries, they came from European colonization, so they took a lot of Christianity to their way of life. But in Palestine, it's different. We go to a Muslim majority country.
Yeah, Muslim majority country.
Everywhere we need to respect our religions. And the beautiful thing that we see about Palestine is that Islam brings such an idea of resilience and social justice and love that actually, in my opinion, makes people stronger. When we see the situation in Gaza, 8 decades in Palestine in general of genocide and ethnic cleansing, that structured an apartheid colonial system, and that has been doing this not ruled by a religion, but ruled by an ideology called Zionism.
Yeah.
This is the problem, a racist and supremacist ideology. And they've been for over 2 years escalating this genocide in the most horrific war crimes. But then it comes Ramadan, and all the Palestinian people go into the mosque and pray into the rubble of the mosque.
Okay.
That is such a powerful thing that you can see, and that I believe you don't need to follow Islam to see God's presence there and to understand how beautiful that is. So I believe in Palestine we see this. In other places we have other characteristics, but the same enemy, which is imperialism and Zionism, mostly in general, the biggest problems in the world right now.
Okay.
But for Palestine, it comes with this idea of Islamophobia. It comes with this idea of trying to put Arabic people as violent as well,
Okay.
that we need to challenge that one. To be honest, I didn't understood too much about Islam before
Okay.
understanding about Palestine. And it was beautiful to learn because I was born into a colonial educational system as well. But to be honest, in Brazil, we are
Okay.
taught to know the neighborhoods of New York from the sitcoms and to know the rivers of Europe.
Yeah.
And to think that this is the model of beauty, this is the model of civilization. And when we heard about these countries, we would think the same thing, terrorist people and stuff like that. So it was beautiful for me to understand that all my life I was very frustrated about that as well, but it was beautiful to see that what they always said that it was a violent religion was actually a beautiful religion of people that wants to live their life in happiness, with love, with their community, with their culture. And Palestine showed that to the world. They try to put Palestinian men, for example,
Okay.
as example of violence.
Yes.
But then we see, and it's the guy of the soul of our soul with his baby girl, and our other professor that has the most beautiful poem, "If I Must Die,"
Okay.
and the doctors and the civil defense workers and the journalists. They try to put all these people as terrorists, as violent, and the world fell in love with them.
Do you have friends, Palestinian friends?
Yes,
so far?
I have many friends.
Aside from Nadir?
Yes. I have many friends in Gaza. I have friends in the occupied West Bank. I have friends also in the territories occupied in 48. And I have many friends in the diaspora as well. So people always think that why do you care about somewhere so far away in the world? But once you connect with people, it's the same. To be honest, I'm a father of a 2-year-old baby daughter called Teresa. And I love my daughter so much. You know that when she was 2 months old, she got dengue, which is a disease that's very common in Brazil. Yes, from the mosquito, from Aedes aegypti. And then she would have to have her a lot of medicine and the syringes and stuff. So she would be pierced a lot by the syringes. And it hurted me so much to see that my baby girl with 2 months. But while I was holding her for the syringe, for the doctor to be able to use the syringe, I was thinking about the parents in Gaza that will hold their sons to be amputated without anesthesia. And that broke my heart because I know that the fathers and the mothers of every child in Gaza, they love their daughters and their sons as much as I love mine. There should be no difference. Why do we think we are different from people in Sudan, in Gaza, in Congo, in Venezuela? We are all the same humans, and we should all be able to have the right to live in peace with the same rights, not mattering our religion, our ethnic group, or anything. We should all have the same rights. So that's what really, I believe, for the people in the Global South, it's a bit easier to connect, to understand that we all have been victims of violations and everybody deserves this right to live in peace. But not the peace that they say, because they said that Palestine lived in peace before October 2023. And
exactly.
Whoever was there know that it was not peace at all. But real peace that comes with social justice, that comes with being really free as well.
Yeah.
So I really believe that we should understand that about Palestine, that Palestine is the lighthouse of hope for the world.
Yeah, we hope so. Such a, I think, heartfelt sharing from your side. And I think this is just a simple question. Why Global Sumud Flotilla? Why Global Sumud Flotilla?
There are two different things about that. When we were it was June 2025, this year that lasted almost like a decade.
Okay.
Was so much work. In June, we had 3 missions at the same time. We had the Freedom Flotilla Coalition mission. I was on board the Medellin with Greta, with a lot of our comrades as well. And we had at the same time that we were going by sea, we had the Sumud convoy that was going from Maghreb. Left from Algeria and then Tunisia and then Libya and tried to get to Egypt and then Rafah and then Gaza. And we had the Global March to Gaza that will go by plane to Cairo, then take a bus to Al Arish port, and then from Al Arish, march to Gaza through Rafah.
Okay.
So these 3 initiatives, we were in talks between each other. And we were saying, we need to support each other because we are both facing the same enemy, the same challenges. And then we got arrested first, like a week before they got also intercepted. And that helped them to grow a lot as well. But so when I left prison, I didn't know what happened with them because I was in prison when they were at the final stages of their march. But when I left prison, we finally got in contact, everybody back once again. And then we all decided, people met in Tunis and said, let's have a new mission together, all of us. And we've seen that because of the results that we had, that the sea is the way to go right now on a new mission. And then we decided that we'll have a mission. And then we had to pick a name for this mission. So we had the Freedom Flotilla Coalition that had a lot of us that were there. Yeah. We had the Sumud Convoy, and we have the Global March to Gaza. So from Global March to Gaza, we took the Global. From Sumud Convoy, we took the Sumud. And from the Freedom Flotilla, we took the Flotilla.
Oh, this is
Global Sumud Flotilla. One part of each.
Okay.
And it became this.
Okay, so we take the Global Sumud Flotilla from the 3 counterparts, for the first 3 counterparts, right?
Yes, but now should be added more because we have Sumud Nusantara as well.
Global Sumud Nusantara Flotilla.
In the end, it was that. It was the composition of all these 4 coalitions that created our mission, but also a movement, because it's more than just a sea mission. People go into this for life. They really, doesn't matter the tactic. They could go by bus, they could go by boat, they could march. Whatever they do, they want to see a free Palestine and they want to see an end of Zionism and imperialism. So it was created in this aspect, but when we bring the Sumud, was the idea of the resilience, the steadfastness of the Palestinian people that really, it is contagious. Once you see a people that never gives up, that never takes the shortcuts, that never bows to the most horrific forces and the most hateful regimes of our generation, you get inspired by it, because you say, if they don't give up, how can we give up? If they're living under the most horrific circumstances a human body can endure, how can we give up? Because our life as activists is not easy at all. But if you see that they can continue, we also can do it. So they inspire the world.
For the Global Sumud Flotilla, as we see, we always claim that we, as a political advocacy, we have global movements to end, to break the siege, to break the silence. But what is the really objective, the main objective for the Global Sumud Flotilla?
What unites everybody from the Global Sumud Flotilla is the desire to see Palestine as a free place where every people can live free and equal with equal rights and having the right to live in peace. The way we translate that into a non-violent direct action now is by going to the sea and answering to the immediate demands of the Palestinian people, which right now was to open a humanitarian corridor and tell the world what is going on. That was their main needs. Because if we open the way, if we don't let the Zionists starve them to death, they can continue to tell the story. It's not us that we need to tell the story. We need to echo their voices. We need to make sure that they are still there to tell the stories. So the Global Sumud Flotilla has this mission to see a free Palestine, to be in solidarity with the Palestinian people until they achieve that. It's not us who lead this. The Palestinian people are showing the way to the entire world. So we're there in solidarity with them and mobilizing all the energy we can in this non-violent direct action movement that right now has this objective, because this illegal siege over Gaza exists for 18 years. But even if this siege was not there, Palestine has been living 8 decades of genocide and ethnic cleansing. So once we get rid of this horrific and criminal siege by international law, we need to continue. We need to continue in solidarity with Palestinians until they achieve their total freedom and their liberation. So the Global Sumud Flotilla, as people ask, it's a humanitarian, non-violent solidarity action that right now aims to break the siege of Gaza, to create a humanitarian corridor. And for this future of the mission, for this next mission, we say that we want to be able to do with the Palestinians to be able to rebuild Gaza. Neither Trump, neither Netanyahu. The Palestinian people and the international solidarity must rebuild Gaza.
Okay, good. I think it's a good sign, because I think after we did the Global Sumud Flotilla for the first wave, we can see that many of the politicians for the Westerners and Europe, they have decided to third line with the pro-Palestinians, and they have decided to make sure that Palestinians get their rights for their lands. And do you see that the Global Sumud Flotilla for the first wave gave the big impact for the world, or I think especially for the Palestinians?
Definitely. In the end, we didn't achieve the tactical result that we wanted, which was to break the siege and open a humanitarian corridor. But in a long-term strategy of supporting the Palestinian people in solidarity for them to achieve their freedom, we advanced quite a bunch.
Yeah.
Because billions of people were aware of what was going on. And when they got aware, they asked the right questions. They asked, why is these people going? Why are civilians going and not the governments?
Yeah.
And why are they going by sea? What's going on with the
by land,
land
and by
yes,
by air?
and why are they being attacked by drones? Why are they being kidnapped and arrested? So when people start to ask these things, they get to the roots. They get to Zionism. They get to U.S. imperialism. They get to complicity from the European Union as well. So once they ask these questions, there's no turning back. These people will never again believe their lies. When Israel tries to pay billions of dollars to create this propaganda in the movies, in the cultural industry, and in history books, people will see that and say, this is a lie, because the Palestinians showed the way. And we were just a vehicle to convey the message. So I'm sure that we were very successful in this area. We still have a task incomplete, that Palestinian does not need a symbolic and moral victory. They need also a material victory to be able to experience liberty, to experience life, to experience the freedom to not have a blockade or military occupation. So that still has not been achieved. And that's why we need to continue. But if we consider that this mission brought awareness to billions of people, and this mission was also fundamental part of the global uprising that had general strikes in Italy, that had millions of people mobilizing here in Asia, in Africa, in Europe, in many countries. And that global uprising was the key decisive factor for Trump to understand that he could not defeat this uprising and push Netanyahu for a ceasefire, despite the fact that the ceasefire is fake. But it was important to defeat their plans of completely ethnic cleansing, because Trump, 4 months before the flotilla, he would also say that I'm going to empty Gaza. I'm going to send them to Egypt or Jordania, or then this failed. And then he started Eritrea, South Sudan, Somaliland. And all of that was failing. And the global uprising so strong until he decided, no, let's change tactics.
Yeah.
And that was a victory for the Palestinian people. Can you imagine this? That 2.3 million people in one of the smallest places on earth defeated the strongest war machine of all history of humanity, which is the US industrial military complex, giving their weapons to the most hateful ideology in the world, which is Zionism. And the Palestinian people defeated that with international solidarity, because they tried to exterminate them and to expel all of them, and they are still there. So that is a huge victory. But the problem is that imperialism and Zionism, they're smart. So they try to create this ceasefire to try to take the land by other means. By using this yellow line, and by saying that it's now under United States jurisdiction, under Trump responsibility. So they always keep on trying, but the people had such a huge victory that we cannot underestimate what this was.
Okay, Thiago. So I think basically we had seen the impact of the Global Sumud Flotilla for the first wave, and we know we have made a teaser for the Global Sumud Flotilla for second wave. And I just want to ask about the Global Sumud Flotilla for the first wave. Do you see that I think not most of the activists, but most of us that outside from the Global Sumud Flotilla, they see that Global Sumud Flotilla is such a waste for their time, for their money, why you use your money to buy the boat, and the boat finally has been captured by the Israelis, has been by Zionists, and the humanitarian aid cannot reach the Gazans. And how we want to make their trust with our fighting and resilience for these missions?
That is something very important to ask, because, any type of action in solidarity is going to face criticism.
Yeah.
If you're doing solidarity work in your country, you're going to face criticism. For Palestine, of course, we're going to face criticism, especially because there's a huge propaganda machine that will try to do anything to smear us. You know that what they do is always the same tactic. Once we launch the mission, they say it's terrorists bringing weapons to attack Israel. That's why we need to bomb, we need to kill them. Once we defeat this narrative by sharing who we are, they change and they start to say, these are egoistic people that go on a selfie boat for likes and to show off, and they are narcissists and stuff like this. Once we defeat this, they start to say these things, such a waste of resources, and then trying to find things to discredit the mission. But you know that during these 2 years of escalation of the genocide, many people went, for example, to do humanitarian missions to Egypt. I was one, and Nusantara was also one of the organizations that was trying to bring things through Rafah. And when I was, in November 2023, trying to get to Rafah border through the Sinai Desert, and I was in Ismailia, and I would see 1,000 of trucks rotting in the desert, of food, of medicine, of everything there. And until today, we see thousands of trucks there in the Sinai Desert, from Ismailia to Suez Canal to Al Arish to Rafah.
Yeah.
Thousands of trucks rotting in the desert. There are many warehouses full of aid of United Nations, UNRWA, and other groups that simply cannot enter. And when we see that, I was doing the calculations, for example, our past mission, it was the equivalent to less than 100 trucks of humanitarian aid, of the cargo of humanitarian aid. But of the thousands of trucks that are there, our mission had the cost of around 100. But our mission brought awareness to billions of people. And our mission was trying to pave the way for this horrific situation, for all the thousands of other trucks to enter. So in my opinion, when we do the math, I believe it's very beneficial to the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people say that to us, that they feel, once they see the flotilla missions, they feel that they are not alone and that the international community will not abandon them, and that is worth a lot. On our mission, for example, the day we got intercepted, the Israeli Navy put so much effort to intercept us that they finally abandoned Gaza shore, and then the people in Gaza could fish for the first time in many months.
For the first time.
And they fished us so much. And also after that, after they arrested us and put us in a prison in the desert, the uprising was so big, the demonstrations, millions of people, the pressure in the government, that this was also fundamental for the ceasefire. So after so much result, how come people can say that money is the problem if it's a small fraction of other things that people also try to do for Palestine, which is also important?
Yeah.
So if with a small fraction of the resources, you create so much of an awareness or so much of an impact. So in my opinion, when we do the math, it is worth it for the Palestinian people. And that's why they acknowledge that. It's not based on international opinion or a popularity contest that we do the mission. To be honest, this mission didn't have to exist. Should not be us. Should be the governments doing this. But if the Palestinian people are still calling for us to go, we will answer this calling. We will not abandon them.
Okay, I'm interested about what you say about when we Palestinians call us. So we have to come either way. Besides of our religions, besides of our races, besides of our ideologies, but do you have any thoughts for our brothers and sisters, non-Muslim brothers and sisters in Malaysia that want to join us in the Global Sumud Flotilla and want to fight with us for Palestinians? Do you have any message or do you have any aspirations for them?
For the Muslims or for non-Muslims?
Non-Muslims.
For non-Muslims.
Yeah.
That's a very good topic, because I believe that Palestinian brings the cause of humanity as a whole. People that want to live in a society free of exploitation, free of oppression, free of the destruction of nature. And this, of course, will connect with Islam, but will also connect with the basic of the life of Jesus of Nazareth as well, and to all the religions, which Islam is also very tolerant. To be honest, most of the people who spread Christian Zionism, for example, they don't really understand
about the religions, right?
Yes, especially Islam. I cannot really believe they say so many things, and they don't understand that for Islam, Jesus is also the Messiah, and is also something that they are eagering for his return. So people don't understand how much they are connected. Whether you are a Muslim or a non-Muslim, we're all connected in the same world. We all have the same destiny. If environmental destruction destroys the planet, we are all under the same problem, the same situation. If the systems of oppression and exploitation creates a condition that we cannot afford to live, that we cannot afford to give a dignified condition to our children, this will affect everybody. So to do the work that Ghassan Kanafani used to say, that Palestine was the cause of all exploited and oppressed people of the world. If we do this work, we are creating benefits for all of us. And really, independently of you being religious or not, you're benefiting from living in a more ethical society, in a more just society. Of course, when you bring this to a religious context, you understand it is much easier, because very way of being for Islam talks about this in the everyday life, in your values for life. But if you don't have a religion, you can connect it to ethics. Or if you have any other religion, because for example, Christians, that most of the Western society where they come from, Jesus was the person who shared the bread with the community, who turned the table of the mercenaries of the temple when they were trying to use religion for harm. So we should bring this. Jesus used to say that it was easier for a camel to pass inside a needle than from a rich and greedy person to go into the kingdom of heaven. So how come they use his name to accumulate wealth and exploit people?
Okay, so because sorry to ask about this question just now, because we have around at least 40% of non-Muslim in Malaysia, and we hope so after this in Global Sumud Flotilla for the second wave, we have participants from the non-Muslims that can portray that the Palestinian struggles is also for the unity struggles, for the humanitarian struggle. You don't have to be a Muslim for to fight for Palestinians, but you have to be human, right? You have to be human to fight for them. And
also in Palestine, you have many religions living together in peace. Of course, the Muslim majority,
Jews,
but
because I think most of the world sees that Palestinians is also always affiliated with the Muslims. Because Muslims, we have the values on it. But when we will talk about the humanitarian, when we talk about the ethics, as you said, when we talk about the ideologies, and we have to share this value to fight for the justice and to expel all the occupation that made by any counterparts in the world. And Thiago, I want to ask about one thing you want to see for Palestine.
I want to see for Palestine a well-living society, where people can live in a society free of exploitation, oppression, and destruction of nature. So, because if we know that, if this place that has been the most targeted place for the most horrific and hateful ideologies of our time, which is Zionism and imperialism, can build a society like this, then we can do it everywhere else in the world of 8 billion people. So what I really wanted to see is Palestine being the lighthouse, not only for resilience, for resistance, but also for the model of society that we want to see everywhere else. And I believe that's what everybody dreams of seeing there, that these children that suffer the most horrific things, that had to learn the sound of an F-35 fighter jet throwing bombs in her home, that had to learn the effect of hunger in her organism, that had to learn the difference between different types of drones, that had to learn the behavior of occupying soldiers that assassinate them, that had to go to the lines of their hunger death traps, which was the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, that is children that have seen their whole family being bombed, their houses being destroyed, their displacement so many times, that they all have the right to live in peace. And if we all want to see them experience life at its fullest, they deserve it so much.
Yeah, they deserve it so much. I think we have to to our God, because we have everything. We have everything, like the food, like the shelter, like the clothes to wear, and so on. But when we see what happened in Palestine, they don't have the shelter, the proper shelter. They don't have the clothes. They don't have the proper food and drinks. So I think we have to be grateful. Besides what our religions, what our races and ideologies. And sorry to ask, Thiago, how many Palestinian diaspora in Brazil?
In
Just
Brazil,
want to know.
Brazil has a huge Arabic diaspora. The Palestinian, I believe they don't go above 50,000, but we have, for example, 10 million Lebanese, more than in Lebanon.
Oh, okay.
So in the end, the Arabic and the Islamic community is very, very big in Brazil. Not so much of Palestinians, but in Chile there are lots nearby. But the Arabic diaspora in general is very, very strong in Brazil.
Okay, from if we calculate in scale of percentage from 1 to 100, so what is the percentage for the diaspora and Palestinian in Brazil?
Of all the Arabic community, the Palestinian would make it less than 3%.
Less than 3%.
But they're very vocal because they're very, very strong. Like everywhere else. Wherever we see a Palestinian, we see them conveying the message of their people, of their history, of their Sumud with a lot of quality. And they're really changing the way the Brazilian people sees Palestine right now. They defeated the Zionist lobby in Brazil.
Oh, okay.
So Brazil has shifted in the last 2 years from a country that was indifferent to the situation in Palestine, was not aware of that, and because of Christian Zionism of the evangelicals was mostly supporting Israel, saying that's the promised land with the chosen people, to a country where most of the people now supports Palestine. So this is good to see. Support in the ideas, but the problem is we need to turn this sympathy and this theoretical support into concrete action.
Into concrete actions, yeah. Yes. I think we can do that concrete action with the Global Sumud Flotilla.
Yes.
And until this part, we want you to share about the Global Sumud Flotilla for the last parts, and when the Global Sumud Flotilla for the next week. just not briefly for the idea, but when and where we will do the Global Sumud Flotilla.
Well, since our task is incomplete, we need to keep on going. And right now, we have this situation that after seeing the counter moves and empire striking back from Trump, from Netanyahu, from Tony Blair and all of them, we know that we need to escalate. We need to be bigger. We need to mobilize more people on boats and outside of the boats. So our idea right now is to have the entire world with us. Every single country in the world represented. All the almost 200 countries in the world, we want to have them on the boats. And from these countries, we want to have people that will shake the structures in their country.
We have to shake this.
To make sure that we have not one general strike like we had in Italy last time, but we have many, dozens of them that will put pressure on all the governments that are still taking complicity. There are some countries now that after this fake ceasefire, this fake proposal of peace from Trump, they are getting back with their weapons export to Israel. And we need to stop that at all. So the idea for us now is to have all the world together, to have not dozens of boats now, but to go beyond that in a number that has never been seen in the support for Palestine, and bringing hundreds of doctors, bringing a lot of people from construction work, eco-builders, people who be able to do with the Palestinians the reconstruction of Gaza. And we really want to do this very fast. So we have a few months. There's a sailing season in the Mediterranean, which comes from late March until late September. We want to go the first winter weekend. So we are not still saying the date, but we really feel the sense of urgency. We feel like the world is willing to come with us on this, and we need to do this. This is the most important task that international solidarity can bring. Not because the flotilla is more special than anything. Being on a boat is not more important than being on demonstrations, doing boycotts, promoting free information like you are doing here right now, spreading free information. All this work is very, very important. But the good thing about the flotilla is that it connects the entire world in the same calendar. So people know that the day the flotilla leaves from Mediterranean countries like before. We're doing the same thing again, many different ports, mobilizing people from everywhere and joining together on the way to Gaza. When we sail, the whole world moves. If they do something to us, the whole world protests. If they put us in prison, violates us like they did last time, the whole world goes in an uprising.
Yeah.
We want to do this again, but on a much bigger scale because Palestine needs it right now more than ever.
Yeah.
So I really can't wait for that because the Palestinians cannot wait for that. That's the main thing. Our sense of urgency is not connected to other individual desire, but to their needs right now. And what happens is that this fake ceasefire, what they call the yellow line, the Zionists are taking over 60% of the land in Gaza. They have killed already over 400 people since the signature of this fake ceasefire. They are still hindering aid. An average of 253 trucks are entering per day, which is less than half of the 600 that they agreed, and which is also less than half of the 1,500 that the United Nations said it was the minimum for Gazan people to live with dignity there for the Palestinian people. So the violations are still ongoing. The idea of this fake ceasefire from Donald Trump was to stop the global uprising and to be able to continue their violations in a disguised way. And we must not accept that. So sense of urgency is maximum. The Global Sumud Flotilla is preparing to sail again, and we need to be together with the whole world.
Okay, but Thiago, we cannot bring entire world for this mission. So maybe what's your preference for the people that cannot join the mission and want to help also for the Palestinian struggle?
Well, we ask for people to join the mission outside the boat. So we have the people who are the sea crew and have the land crew. Because if you know that for the last mission, we have over 150,000 applications for people to join our boats. Of course, we will not have space to bring everybody. But if the person has the courage and the will to be on a boat with us for, we used to say 2 weeks, but last mission took a whole month at sea. We know how many things we faced. But if they have the courage to be with us at sea, why can't we use the same energy to mobilize on land? To have like permanent encampments, to have mobilizations every single day. If they were already preparing to be with us this time, why can't we do the same effort on land like the Italians did when they stopped their country? So if we understand that the mission is bigger than the people on the boats and the people who are at home in their home countries, they have the same degree of importance, to be honest, sometimes even more important than us on the boats. We can have everybody with us, and they can be decisive part of the mission, and they can continue with the boycotting, continue promoting and producing free information, continue doing the demonstrations, encampments, and bringing awareness everywhere. So that is the challenge right now. That doesn't matter where you're from. The place to do is wherever you are, and the time to do is right now. We need to mobilize more. This is the decisive moment. Every generation that comes after us is going to talk about these 2 years, and is going to talk about this moment right now when Zionism and imperialism try this trick to fake a ceasefire to implement their plans. And we'll see how was the popular response. I hope what we can say is that the world did not accept their fake plans of still ethnic cleansing and genocide, and we turned the tables once again and did an uprising that finally, led by the Palestinian people, achieved their liberation.
I think this is like a legacy that we will leave for our future generations, that the future generation will also know that we have been struggled, we have turned the theoretical ideas to the concrete ideas and concrete action for the Palestinian struggle. So Thiago, we know that what had happened in Somaliland and Venezuela recently. So we just want to ask, what's your opinion, and do you see that is a pattern for Zionism, United States of America, to occupy other nations and states that always speaks louder for the Palestinians?
Yes, definitely we see an increase of imperialism and Zionist intervention all around the world. Trump was very transparent and clear when he shared his national security strategy to the entire world, which talks about for Latin America the Monroe Doctrine to dominate what they call their backyard, but also all around the world to implement not even we cannot call it a Cold War against China, because this is very wide open.
This is wide
in so
open,
many countries. So we see that not only with U.S. imperialism, very strong, but we see with Zionism as well. When they talk about recognizing Somaliland, it's because they want to turn Somaliland into a military base and to displace Palestinians into there as well, and to have that as a base to attack Yemen, to control the maritime traffic as well as there as well. So in the Red Sea, yes, and they want to be able to attack Iran from closer. So we see an advance in so many tactics of domination that for some countries they want to send their full coercive force. So they want to attack Venezuela, they want to kidnap the president like they did with Maduro, they want to bomb the capital and 3 other provinces like they did. For Lebanon, for Yemen, for Iran, for Palestine, of course, the full rage and bombs and threats to Colombia and threats to Cuba and threats to Brazil as well. And so many other countries are under their threats. And you see the Sahel region and Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger also under their crosshairs, because there are people who do not accept imperialism. For other people, they try different approaches. They try to co-opt through money. So the Abraham Accords that goes into the most susceptible to accept the money, because they work like mercenaries against their own people as well. But then they try to broaden it to more countries that so far have been independent and have projects of sovereignty, and they get tempted by it to be part of this club of countries. And I hope they don't manage to co-opt many countries, but they try that a lot. Including they try here in Nusantara region as well. They try to do this with Indonesia. They try to do this with Pakistan. They try to do it in many places. And I hope the world does not buy that idea, does not sell their soul for money. And with other countries, they try to maintain under their rule, like the European Union, obligating them to use 5% of their budget for military spendings, with U.S. military companies as well, and NATO being the head of all of this, into a project that would never benefit the European people. To be honest, the European people are living in a much worse situation right now, when they have to buy expensive U.S. weapon, expensive U.S. oil, to be subject to the United States, and to make sure that the people do not have the proper healthcare, do not have the proper educational system. Instead, they're buying weapons from the United States to go into their warmongering projects. So the world has no benefit for it. Workers of the world have nothing to benefit of all the wars that they plan. And we need to make sure that we all revolt against this. We cannot accept that.
We cannot accept this. We cannot accept this. But I'm adding one more questions. Do you think that this kind of crisis and situation will interrupt our missions that we want to do this year?
It will never stop our mission. This only makes our mission more and more important. What people always ask me, the siege exists for 18 years. For 17 years, there were attempts to break this siege. From 2008 to 2010, it was the Free Gaza movement. From 2010 to 2025 was just the Freedom Flotilla Coalition. I was part of that. I'm still a part of the steering committee. And in 2025, 2 other initiatives came. The Global Sumud Flotilla, which was the biggest one, but also a very beautiful one, the 1,000 Madeleines as well. So there are many people trying to break the siege and to mobilize. But whenever we were going, all the years that I accompanied this, people were asking, but what if they do this? What if they increase this violation? What if they attack this country? What if they are bombing Gaza? Would we go anyway? And I said, yes, of course we go. We need to go in any circumstance with whatever resource we have. Because when they use this, when they use their violence, it only shows the people that we are right. People ask, how come you go if you know there's such a big chance that they would intercept us? When we went with the Medellin, 12 people on that boat.
12 people on the boat, yeah.
And people said, of course you're going to be intercepted. And we said, no, first of all, it's not of course, because we never know in the history of anti-colonial struggle, if we are hitting against a wall to break this wall of oppression, we never know which strike is going to be the one that is going to break this wall. And we need to keep on striking that wall until this wall comes down. But even if there was a highly probability that we will get intercepted, it would only show the world what we were trying to say by words. It would show by action that Israel is an oppressive regime that is denying the Palestinians the right to have access to their own borders, and that is starving children to death and people to death. So what happened with our interception is that our message only got stronger. So they think they are in control. The oppressive regimes, they think they are in control, but we are the ones in control, because we can decide to have a mission anytime where they have only two options. They can kill us and destroy us, and they show to the world who they really are. They can arrest us and do the most horrific
things. They can show their superiority, right?
Yes, but then the whole world will understand who they are, and they'll never be able to lie again. Or they can not mess with us, and the Palestinian people will have conquered another right. So they think that they're in control, but we are actually the ones in control. They only have these two options, and we have the intention to always put them in this type of crisis until there's no more system of oppression, system of colonization. Because if they let us pass, then this blockade will be over for the Palestinian people. It needs to be over, because it's such an illegality from international law, such a violation that should not exist at all. But if they stop us, if they arrest us, if they treat us bad, if they kill us, the whole world will know who they are, and then the sanctions will come and all the violations will come. So what is there under their control? Nothing. And they think they have all the power because they are supremacists. But I always say to them, I said to them even over the radio, you think that you have all the power, but all that you have is your violence, your hate, your bombs, and your weapons. We have all the rest. We have all the people. We have the history of anti-colonial struggle that shows that people, once start a long march of freedom, they're unstoppable. Like in Malaysia, when you started this fight for freedom, from independence, no Portuguese colonial power could stop you. No British power could stop you as well. And I'm sure that the Malaysians are looking for more, just like the Palestinians, just like the Brazilians. We are all the same march of freedom. And we cannot accept being from the global south, colonized countries, and we need to mobilize in solidarity with any country that is under attack right now, which right now means Venezuela, means Palestine, means Sudan, means Congo, means Yemen, means Lebanon, means Iran, means all of these countries. We should make no distinction, because it doesn't even matter their internal problems in this country, because the people can find their way to solve their problems. What is much worse, it's colonial domination from the global north, because they will never want to set people free. They will never want these people to have full democracy. They don't even have democracy in their own countries. So we need to make sure that people have the self-determination to pursue their own destiny. I'm sure the Malaysians will find their way, Brazilians will find their way, Palestinians will find their way once they're free of this domination.
And I think for our podcast, for our sharings today, can you share what's your hope for us in Malaysia, maybe, and what's your hope for the Palestinians in the future? Inshallah, please.
We live in a world of combination of crises: economical, ecological, social crisis, so many wars, so many lack of purpose for people, so few hope for people. And we need to find a way for all of us to understand that we are living the greatest and decisive moments of our generation. And we need to mobilize for that. So, of course, my dream is that not only here in Malaysia, but also in Palestine, but also in Brazil and everywhere else, people can live free and equal in a society free of exploitation, oppression, and destruction of nature. But I know that this will come if people mobilize. So my hope is that people understand that despite the fact that they are being told by this capitalist neoliberal society that you should not mobilize, that you should just compete to accumulate money and accumulate material goods, and that's the only way that you can do that. Mobilize for a collectivity, for a community is a waste of time and never achieve anything. What I want the most is that people don't believe that. Because when you don't believe that, you organize. And when you organize, you create an amazing collective strength that can achieve the impossible. To be honest, to have the Global Sumud Flotilla in 3 months, have the biggest mission ever attempted, was impossible, and we did it. And now, having the biggest mission by far with the entire world connected, still is impossible. I'm sure we're going to do it. Because the collective strength, the collective power that comes goes beyond just the sum of how many people are together. It creates a situation where everything seems possible. So what I want the most, my biggest desire for now, for the Malaysians, for the Palestinians, for the Brazilians, for everywhere else in the world, is that we mobilize. Because if we mobilize, we will achieve our victory.
Okay, so we have to mobilize. We have to be resilient.
let's transform this world.
All right, Thiago. Thanks a lot, Thiago.
Thank you so
I
much,
think
my brother.
this is such a delightful and inspiration session for us in Malaysia and also for the activists around the world. We can hear from you, the one who I think ignite the revolutions for the Palestinians in Western country and maybe inshallah in Malaysia also. Okay, thank you. For the session, obrigado, Thiago,
Thank you so
for this
much.
session, inshallah. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in another podcast, inshallah. Be Sumud, be resilient, fight for Palestinians.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
my brother.